Good morning, guys. It's Goose from the Wise Wealth Discord coming back at you with another Sunday watch list. I wanted to give you an update on some of the levels we're watching to see if we maybe do create that leg lower or we continue higher. Last week, as you know, we started off Monday really red. And like expected, dip buyers stepped in and the reaction seemed a little bit overreacted. It didn't seem really warranted for, exactly some of the data that was coming out. You see Monday, we just kind of hit a bottom around 507, 508, caught ourselves, and then ever since then, we started working our way up. So overall, if you look at the weekly candle, it really wasn't that bad. Let me make sure that I'm on stream right now. Is it showing? Okay. Just had to double check because sometimes it just doesn't quite pick up my stream. I know there's a lot of lines here, but the weekly candle actually looks pretty solid. And I wouldn't say we're out of the clear yet. I think bulls still have some work to do. If you see in most corrections, like the bounce back is usually close to like 7 to 8% from the original bottom. So like that was a 4% bounce back. These are the old correction back in 2023, by the way. But like a 4%, it's usually pretty normal to get like a big bounce back after a correction happens. SPY technically didn't get quite into correction territory. We could be working our way towards it though. As you see, we still kind of have a bear flag that we need to work out of. The top right now would be about 538. If you break below 524, you could start to have some issues and start to test the bottom on SPY at 508. But overall, the Bulls did do a nice job of at least defending, and it wasn't just an all-out bloodbath, just like Monday started. It was pretty good dip buying opportunity. We did get a little scare as it reached the top of the channel here, where it dropped quite a bit, but then Bulls ended up pushing it right back. So right now, I mean, it's kind of how I was thinking. If you go to the monthly, August is usually a green month, so dip buyers are starting to step in. If you could hold these levels throughout the month, even where we're at now, about 530, that would be a good, pretty much a good like support level if we work our way into that. Because you could see this huge wick just came down, filled all those orders, and now people are starting to buy it up. If we do hold this, then maybe going into September, we start to see something. Typically, September isn't really the strongest month for stocks. It starts to wane out after August. So we'll have to wait and see. It's getting a little ahead of ourselves, though. We still have a couple weeks to work through. One big thing that we have to watch, though, is the Forex factory. We have red folder news, core PPI Tuesday, PPI month over month Tuesday. We have core CPI Wednesday. So as we get some of the inflation data, that's going to be the big determiner if we continue to keep going up or if we fall back down into another leg lower. I personally think if the CPI does come in lower, which Jimmy's forecasted thing, I forgot what exactly he uses, has been showing a very weak CPI, which is good for inflation, showing that it's coming down. If we do see anything in the two range, I believe we could rip through this channel and start to move our way up into the 541 range. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's a time to be super bearish after a drop like that. It could have been an overreaction. And if inflation starts to slow down, then everyone's going to start to think that that rate cut is coming, which generally speaking, it's usually pretty bullish. But if you look in the past, I mean, obviously the markets do show a lot of turbulence once the Federal Reserve cuts their interest rates, just because typically the economy is showing a lot of weakness by the time they do cut. But if they cut because CPI is getting lighter, then that's kind of like a bullish thing, in my opinion. QQQ, you have the same thing. But we'll have to be watching out. That's going to be the big like catalyst for this week is CPI, obviously. Same thing though with the channel is like it's not quite like a bullish thing yet. We're still in like a downtrend. We have the ultimate downtrend happening right here, so it's like it could get up here, but around 460 is going to be a big level of resistance. If it starts to break above that, then I'm very bullish. I would start then you could start to work to 475, 480, 490, maybe all-time highs if we get above that. And I think CPI is going to be the catalyst that shows if we get denied or if we just or if we break through and continue to keep going. Right now, you could see pre-market we're up a little bit. Mondays are low volume, so I don't really trust them. I mean, we are getting above 450. That was the level I said we had to work through. So we could start to work our way up to 460 before CPI, and then maybe we get the denial, maybe we get the breakthrough. Still in a channel though, so right now around 460 is a good level of resistance. 450, you want the bulls to hold that as we're going into the week. But just a rising channel. I don't really see anything super bullish yet, but I think the market is waiting for CPI. Same thing with IWM small caps. It's been getting absolutely obliterated. You could see that we're kind of just in bear flag, so nothing too crazy on most of the charts. It was a good levels for us to catch a dip on. So that's why I started like dollar cost averaging because, like I said, a good rule of thumb 10% or lower on any indexes is always a good time to start accumulating shares of your favorite companies. You're usually putting yourself in a good position to win in the longer term. But a bear flag, as you could see, anything above 208.50, 209 would be a good break for the IWM and the upside. Anything below 197, 200, then you're starting to get very bearish again. But it did have a rough week after the FOMC. You could see that it's in a pretty crazy sell off, but it's held that support perfectly that I was showing on Monday. Is that we had this previous flag and it bounced right off that and hasn't really looked back. So that's always good. So what you want to see for bulls is above 208, 209, then you could start to cook back to 212 on IWM. That might be a good trade once it does break. But like I said, CPI and stuff like that, I don't like to like trade before it because then fear comes in, or maybe it leaks and there's just a big buy up. It's like I like to let that dust settle a little bit before I start to get too quick on my hands. Other than buying commons, I didn't really trade last week. I was just like the volatility is just absolutely insane. I know I could have caught a few, but with me having to work all the time and just being at work, I don't have the time to be catching volatility like that. There's no reason to get in a trade if you don't see anything beautiful. Bitcoin, it did start to work its way back up at one point. I mean, it got back up to 70K, but it just couldn't quite continue to keep working through that. And we did bounce perfectly at the 50K level. So I like that a lot. Holding that support as of right now. Maybe a little bit of a bull flag. It's kind of ugly, but you got something because it did push up quite a bit. So it's like you're gonna have your take profit guys, and then anything above 61, 62,000, you could be able to work your way back up into the 65K range. But overall, I mean, I think it was pretty good dip buying from a lot of the fear that was coming. You could see that it started at 50 exactly, actually. It just started buying itself up and it tried to make that leg lower, couldn't. And now bulls are just kind of trying to stay control again. We'll see how it plays out. Ethereum had a good dip buy as well. So it came all the way back down. Whew, 2100 just wiped out a bunch of people and then it starts to buy itself up. So we'll see. It does kind of look like a bear flag on Ethereum right now. I don't usually trade cryptos, but I know we have it in the channel, so I cover it every once in a while. But nonetheless, I mean, you got some good levels to play off of. If it could break above the 2800 level, then you're starting to breach some pretty good levels and possibly could get back up into 3K. See how it works its way through there. But some good levels to trade off of if you do trade crypto. It's always pretty clean charts. Apple, they had their big drop off because of Warren Buffett. Found support right on the Monday support that we were watching, 197, and now it's working its way up. But same thing that like indexes are doing. It just kind of looks really weak. It looks like a bear flag in my opinion. I don't really think that stocks look super bullish, but like I was saying, that looks like a rising wedge, by the way. Like I was saying though, if CPI comes in at 2 point anything, I do believe that the market is going to drastically pop up just because of the hopes that the rate cut is coming. And then the data was kind of like, I get it, 4.3%, it's rising, it was higher, but it really wasn't warranted to like start a huge like flash crash and like everything's going to crap. And that's just kind of the narrative that they put out there. And who knows, maybe that was just to like scare us out of the shares, create the correction that needs to happen, every couple of years. And then boom, they send it right back up into all-time highs now that CPI is coming down. Microsoft, they're holding their support well. You could see that they eventually lost it, but they gained it right back around the 400 level, but still weak. Still weak. I mean, you're not really seeing too many like higher highs or anything, but there are good levels that they're just kind of like showing resistance at. Another rising wedge, so we'll see if it can work its way above 410. If it does, then you could start to work towards 425, 430. Um, I mean, we have good levels to play off of, but you could see in most of these stocks, I mean, they don't look very strong. There's still a lot of things for them to break through. Tesla, same thing. Nvidia, same thing. Honestly, a lot of them look very, very similar. So that's why I'm thinking that we're just going to kind of chop sideways or CPI, they start to break it above right before CPI or however that works. There's usually a little bit of volatility right before it comes out. It is Wednesday that it's on. It's Monday today, so we might have a couple days of chop, and then we'll see how it plays out. But if these start to break out and you see the QQQ and SPY start to break out of their channels, SPY above 540, very bullish. Q's above 460, very bullish. If that starts to happen, I can guarantee you that you start to see Apple break out of 218, Microsoft gets above 409, Nvidia gets above 108, 109 area. Tesla, if it works its way back in, could start to get bullish above 204, 205. Meta was one that actually did have a solid bounce. Still didn't create a higher high, but it had like the most like up, I guess you could say, week after that sell off on Monday. 450 was a good support level. You could see these wicks right here. I mean, it's just holding it like a beast. You have one, you have 2, 3, 4. I mean, those wicks are to the T. It's just holding this as support. People aren't letting it go below that, and they like it. That's a good demand zone for Meta. But they have resistance above too at 531. So just be careful on the upside. Uh, I would wait personally for CPI. I think that's when the things break down or they break up. I'm more a little leaning a little bit more bullish due to some of the bearish bets that are coming out there, like Jimmy has posted with sentiment. AMD, same thing. You could see that they're all just kind of like resembling what the ETFs are doing. That's why you kind of want to have like a trade where you're watching both of them. But just another bear flag. I mean, bear flags are only bearish if they break down. If they start to break up, then you're starting to look pretty bullish because you built a good support, a good base, and now you're breaking previous resistance. But resistance right now is about 138, 139 on AMD. This is all the hourly charts, so it's pretty good structure. Always like the hourly for structure. If you go to the 15 minutes, it'd be the same thing, just longer, just a bigger sideways action. So a lot of what was happening is like basically bulls were like, nope, we're not going any lower, but we don't have the balls or the cojones to be pushing it back up. Like Jimmy was saying, a lot of people aren't trying to pile back in until they see that, CPI is coming down. Because if we come in hot, it's going to get pretty bad. If we come in hot, it will get bad. Google, same exact thing. I mean, we have literally the same pattern on all of the Mag 7s. Above 165, you're going to start to cook. Below, I don't know, 158, below 160, somewhere around there, you're going to get a pretty good sell off. But if it comes into this, it could be a good level if there is a good sell off. But that's a beautiful looking chart. I mean, most of them are. You could see as I go through, it all looks the same. I mean, other than Meta, like I said, they actually looked pretty strong. Still resistance at 531, but Tesla, same thing. Another flag or bear flag. Nvidia, flag. Microsoft, flag. Apple, rising wedge. Not quite a flag, but pretty similar. It just filled that gap that they had from Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway selling. So let me get into Amazon. Same thing. I mean, it's actually incredible. I haven't looked at the charts all weekend. I kind of was a little bit busy just doing things, food prepping and meal prepping and all that kind of stuff. Amazon coming back up, just looking relatively weak. I wouldn't say that we're due for another leg down, but I wouldn't be surprised based off the technicals. But overall, I mean, I would say I'm a little bit more bullish just because I believe CPI is going to come in week, and that's gonna be the fuel for the next leg up. And I think this is just an accumulation phase. We just gotta wait for the technicals to play out, but above 160, 170, we're gonna start cooking right back up into this range area. And if we get in this range, we could start to work in the upper levels, but you want to see this break out in the upside. If any of these start to break down, the Googles that breaks down, then yeah, you're probably going to see the Qs break down out of this channel and we create another leg lower. SPY, that's very possible too. We could break out of this channel if all these Mag 7s start to break down. IWM, if it breaks down, small caps, then you could start to see below 197. I just like to give you guys both sides. I'm not biased. I mean, I'll tell you my bias that I'm a little bit more bullish this week. 9 times out of 10, I'm not usually too far off just because it's like it's all about kinda like where sentiment's going, and Jimmy was mentioning that we're the most bearish that we've seen all year, so that kinda gives you a good idea that most likely we're not gonna pay out all those shorts. They're gonna take that liquidity and send it right back up, and if CPI comes in lower, that's a huge catalyst that I think can catapult us through all of these resistances and through some of these bear flags, and people are just going to start piling back in again. So we'll see how it plays out. DG, I mean, still weak, man. I That's been kind of my play. If like a recession does come, I do think it could be a solid play. Um, Option wise, I mean, you would like to see above like 125, 130. That's when you could start cooking. Coinbase, same exact thing. I mean, it's just this. It's crazy how eerily similar a lot of these charts are looking. It's just a pennant formation, bear flag on a huge drop. You need above 200 because if these start to break above, I mean, then you're starting to look pretty solid. You are starting to look really good. DraftKings, same thing. It's actually pretty crazy how similar a lot of these charts look. Like I said, I haven't looked at them all weekend, but now that I'm going through them with you guys, I mean, above 32, 33, you could start to get to cooking. Baba actually had a pretty solid week. They came back and retested this level that Monday scared a lot of people, but now they're creating higher highs. And if you get above 81, then you're starting to cook, starting to look really, really good. But it's got a good base going. If you look at the 4 hour, I mean, to me, I think it looks pretty solid, but could be me being biased because I hold shares and stuff like that, but I like it. I think it looks good, and we'll just have to wait and see what. Um, Sorry about that. What CPI brings out. That's going to be a big, big catalyst. SMCI, they didn't have the best earnings in the world, and they kind of got shot down a little bit. They tried to work their way back up into this range and got denied. So we'll see how far they have to go down. But that was a pretty big flag that they broke out of. So they could come back and come test about the 355 area if CPI comes in lower or higher. I mean, if it comes in higher than expected, a lot of these things are going to break in the downside, in my opinion. If it does come in lower, which I think is expected due to Jimmy's little I don't know, gauge that he's been showing. It's like trueflation or something like that, where it shows kind of where inflation truly is, but the Fed's tools are so late. So I think a lot of this is just going to be probably a bear trap, in my opinion. I think that we're due for a good bounce, and once we do break out of some of these levels that we're watching on the Mag Sevens, and we start to break out in the upsides, that's going to be a huge fuel, a big rally probably coming this week, in my opinion. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but I appreciate you guys checking in. I just wanted to go over some of the levels. You guys have a wonderful week. We'll keep you updated on some of the breaks. I might post in the technical analysis side with a lot of the flags that are there. So then when the time comes, you guys can see them and kind of copy and paste some of the positions that we're in. But I appreciate it. I'll leave the link in the description and let's go to the moon, baby.